Hello everyone. Uh, I've been doing a lot of fun things over here, characters, whatnot, and a few serious discussions in the middle. But today I want to talk to you about something that is really close to my heart. Uh, I've been following up a lot on the recent American political situation. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. How people are saying, "Oh, you can't name your own chief minister, but you can call that." No, you can follow whatever you want. I can follow whatever I want. Just that situation is more publicly, widely reported with multitudes of opinions, and more interesting, which is making a lot of youngsters, people of my generation, follow that more closely and know more about that. That aside, I'm not going to talk about the US. The situation over there is their own problem, and even though I have an opinion on that, I'm not a very opinionated person myself. So I wanted to talk about something that is very close to India, in fact, which is the growth of hypernationalism. Now, I'm not calling India intolerant. I'm not calling anything. I'm not using any of the words that would be seen as incendiary and have trolls or members of the right wing fanatical factions come and hurt me. But it is part of the problem that we are facing right now, because we have how do I say this? With diversity, we have even fanaticism coming in diverse forms, and it all has been branded somehow in hypernationalism. It has all been branded in the benefit of the nation. Now, I know that a lot of liberals and left wing people would brand that to the up and coming of the Modi government and the BJP, which has ties to such right wing parties. And while I can understand that correlation, I do not believe that the government directly is causing that, because that was a very important theme in the election, that it was an all-inclusive election, and for the first time probably I felt that a party like the BJP or the coalition was moving towards a more uniform and all-inclusive agenda. But that aside, obviously some groups get emboldened by the political scenario right now, the Congress leadership in shambles right now. So anyway, I'm moving away from topic. Hypernationalism. We have cases of even hypernationalism exists over a huge spectrum. I would like to talk about a few specific cases. We have had cases. Now, again, that is because we live in a time where everything is reported out of proportion, everything is out there. So it's not as if this is a new problem. This has been there ever since independence and even before that. And while a feeling of nationalism is indeed necessary for having a common purpose of progress and equality and human rights and whatnot, but somewhere along the lines we lose our humanity if we focus extensively on nationalism, and that's what I call hypernationalism. It includes people beating up a disabled man for not standing at the national anthem. I know about the code that governs how citizens behave with the national anthem, the flag and whatnot, but taking the law into your own hands because you believe to be the protector of the nation is wrong. We have a very stringent system in place for it may not be an efficient system, but it is a stringent system in which if you believe anything to be wrong, if you believe you have been hurt in any way, you have branches of government that you can approach. You have the judiciary, which is the primary source of solutions for such civil and criminal incidents. But because of this feeling of hyper-nationalism, India ko hurt kiya, the sentiment of India, the soul of India has been hurt, people justify violence in that case, which goes against the idea of India itself. Now, another form of hypernationalism that I have seen is by Indian, which has been particularly prominent in the Patanjali ads and whatnot. One of the greatest things that have happened now, we have seen a flurry of activity in the geopolitical system in the past few years, from the destabilization of the Middle East, Brexit, the US elections, demonetization in India. Yes, these are tectonic shifts, but we have had such shifts in the past. Liberalization in the 1991 by Manmohan Singh, that was a tectonic shift in India's economy, where we finally believed that we could compete on a global scale. And I don't know why, but people now are regressing again. Hypernationalism, they are regressing back onto the idea of buying Indian, that you should buy only Indian products. We are not living in the times of the British Raj, where we boycotted British made goods, and Gandhiji had to bring up Khadi. No, we are living in a time where Indian Khadi and Indian products and Indian textiles and Indian companies, Indian industries compete with other industries on an international scale. So this idea of buying things Indian because that's good for the nation and the money comes back to us, and not because a product is good. This invasion of consumerism by nationalism is something disheartening, because if this is propagated and promulgated, and this would lead to a sort of how do I say this, need to find a good word for this, status quo being formed. This would lead to Indian companies believing, if I just market my product as being good for the nation, without actually, wondering whether it is a good product as compared to my competitors, then you will have an exclusive market where only that product survives in India, whereas the rest of the world would go on. Now, there have been claims that MNCs, falsify claims and whatnot, they're not really good and all that, but instead of challenging that, we have had products where claim ki Swadeshi, buy Swadeshi and whatnot. We are no longer living in an isolated world. Money earned at one place will not stay at that place. That is going to go across the world. Even if you're buying an Indian company made phone, money from that is going to the Indian CEO, but money from that is also going to the Chinese worker working in the factory who made that phone. Especially with Patanjali, what we've seen is how the company has said to be falsifying claims in advertisements and whatnot. In this context, it's really disheartening. But there's something that I realized, that in some ways our country is more progressive than even the leaders of the free world, the United States. Because if you look at abortions, our country has a very specific MTP guideline, medical termination of pregnancy, since the 1970s. And here in the United States, they cannot get to agree whether abortions is something that should be allowed or should be given as a part of the public health care. There have been cases of abortion clinics being shut down because of right-wing people believing it to be against the idea of God. This is a place we should be proud of it in India, that we have taken science to be above the level of religious discourse or something like that. We have allowed ourselves to think intellectually and decide that a good way of reducing maternal mortality is to offer safe abortion services. And that's not a debate anymore. In fact, even we have had cases in the recent past where even if the guidelines are gone beyond, like even if a lady with a pregnancy of 21 weeks, 22 weeks was given abortive services after the courts intervened and agreed that this is something that can be done. We are far progressive than a nation which claims to be a leader of the free world in terms of women's health, in terms of we are not doing a very good job. We haven't eliminated all the problems, but we are getting there. We are doing it. If you look at public health care, we are getting to something. We are still overloaded, we are still underfunded, we are still understaffed, but we are still getting there. Neonatal tetanus, a disease that would kill so many, has been eliminated because of good maternal health care and good antenatal and postnatal care. Another good example that I thought of was how United States have a gun control issue, how they have so many school shootings and how unstable people gain access to guns. And while India has its own set of goons with kattas and country-made arms, but a landmark decision that was made by the Thatte court was the imprisonment of Sanjay Dutt in the illegal arms case. Even a beloved actor, now don't get me started on how judiciary treats Bollywood personalities. I know the judiciary is, or rather the judicial process that led to the decisions regarding some Bollywood personalities is blatantly false and injustice to some extent. But in the case of Sanjay Dutt, the court ruled that it was illegal for him to have those arms, and that sets a tone that registered arms through the proper process is okay. But that is a very stringent system, and everyone must follow that, no matter if you are Sanjay Dutt, no matter who you are. Now again, it's not a perfect system in the judiciary, as we have seen with cases regarding to Bollywood stars. But again, the United States is a country where gun control is a hotly debated idea. Now it stems back to their foundation and how the founding fathers put the right to bear arms in the constitution. But again, what I don't see in India is worthless debate on an issue which, when it comes to right and wrong, is beyond that. It's a necessary, fundamental and almost universal issue, and we have those issues sorted. Now we are not doing a great job with everything, we are still progressing, but hey, we have something, and that's okay. That shouldn't lead me or anyone in this country to hypernationalism, to isolating ourselves into this intensive bubble of everything saffron, white, blue and green. But it should help us to believe that if we can do this, we can do better than this too. And that should be the Indian dream. If the American dream is in shambles right now and burning, then the Indian dream right now should be, hey, we are making in India, but that does not mean we restrict ourselves to India, because we are good, but we can be better. How about that?